There's a researcher who's worked at every major AI lab you can name: BBN, IBM, Google, twice, LinkedIn, Meta. He helped build the semantic parser behind Google Assistant. He worked on safety for Llama 2. He's published papers that shaped an entire field. And after seeing it all, after watching AI from every angle, from pure research to billion user products, he made a choice that tells us everything about where AI is heading. He joined a startup, not to chase AGI, not to build the next ChatGPT, but to solve a different problem entirely. I'm Alora Weaver, and this is Humans of AI.
My day job is as an AI research scientist. That's what I've been doing for a really long time.
Dan Bikel is Writer's head of AI. But to understand why that matters, we have to start at a dinner table. Not in Silicon Valley, but in a house where a 6-year-old is learning that pediatrician and pedal come from completely different roots.
My father spoke 5 languages fluently, and we would routinely have debates about etymology at the dinner table.
Language for Dan was a system, a code that could be cracked. By 6, he was teaching himself guitar. By 8, writing songs. Music was his first complex system, a language of rhythm and math and meaning. The same curiosity that pulled him into melody would later pull him into machine learning. At 6 years old, Dan Bikel was already training to decode the world. Fast forward to Harvard, 1993. Dan studying classics, ancient Greek and Latin, 2 languages that unlock nearly all of English.
I applied to the 4 technology companies that were hiring at the time. One of them was this funny little research lab called BBN, and they had this lab that did research on this field I'd never heard of called computational linguistics.
That job led to a 30-year grand tour of AI. IBM, Google, LinkedIn, Meta, each stop a milestone in machine understanding. Every scale of problem, every generation of AI. And after all that, Dan made a choice that should make every enterprise executive lean in. In 2025, Dan joined Writer. Not Google, not Meta, a startup.
So I had to make this mental shift, and I realized my job was to go out, see what the business problems were, and then work my way back to what is the research that we should be doing to support those business problems, to somehow feed into what the business needed. It was like a complete reversal.
That reversal is everything. It's the shift from asking, what can this model do, to asking, what does this business need? It's the core philosophy behind building systems, not just models. And it's the line between AI as a science experiment and AI as a business asset. At Google and Meta, Dan watched AI systems delight billions, but he also saw their fragility, models that were mathematically perfect and operationally unpredictable.
The model itself is deterministic. The way that they're often used is by putting this stochastic sampler on top, this thing that is sampling from that distribution with random in it to make it more human-like.
That randomness makes AI seem alive. It also makes it unreliable. For a consumer chat tool, a little unpredictability is charming. For a business, it's chaos. Because a 0.1% error rate might sound trivial until you're serving 10 million customers. Then it's 10,000 mistakes a day. And in the enterprise, mistakes have invoices attached. That's why Dan's rule is simple. Writer doesn't build AI that never errs. It builds AI that never hides its errors, because you can't fix what you can't see. This mindset didn't start at Writer. It started decades earlier in a Cambridge lab where Dan built one of the first machine learning systems to recognize names.
It was like finding the boundaries of person, organization, location, and some numerical quantities, and not much else than that. So what happens when that regular word appears, as the first word in the sentence, right? We work at a company whose CEO is May. Well, that's a perfectly good modal verb also. So you want to make sure you're building a system that is robust to the recognizing what's the difference.
That tiny project, teaching a computer the difference between May the person and May the month, taught him a lifelong lesson. Precision is the foundation of trust. If your AI can't tell Apple the company from Apple the fruit, you can't use it to run your business. Every system Dan has built since then, translation, search, safety, has carried that same principle. It's not the brilliance of the model that matters. It's the reliability of the system around it. Across 3 decades and 5 tech giants, Dan distilled AI strategy into 3 words: scale, speed, specificity. Scale belongs to the hyperscalers. Speed belongs to the startups. Specificity, that's where enterprises win.
I think the other thing it immediately makes you want to work on is the ability to at least constrain and characterize what these models are going to do. That's a big part of what we do. The more we can do that, I think the better it is for customers, for any business customers, anywhere doing anything with LLMs.
Because while everyone else is chasing general intelligence, the real advantage lies in targeted intelligence, AI tuned for a company's language, policies, and risk tolerance. The revolution isn't in model size. It's in systems that understand business context. And context doesn't just mean better answers, it means accountability.
No sane business person would want to deploy a thing that would change over time without their understanding how the changes work.
That line should make every executive sit up, because when AI changes on its own, you lose the chain of custody for your decisions.
It's very tempting to use a large language model to explain itself. It's doing what it's been trained to do, which is spit out a plausible sequence of tokens that you would believe are plausible, and not necessarily say, oh, but this is what was going on inside the model.
That's the transparency paradox. The more powerful your model, the less you understand it. Writer's mission, and Dan's obsession, is to invert that curve, to make AI auditable, observable, and accountable, because observability is the new compliance. Now the field is evolving again into what Dan calls the agentic age. AI systems that don't just respond, they act. Agents calling other agents, coordinating tasks, making decisions.
Now, multiple agents are calling each other and generating multiple output sequences in the course of solving a problem. This becomes devilishly hard.
Devilishly hard and devilishly powerful. Because every new layer of autonomy multiplies the need for observability. And if you can't see what an agent did, when, and why, you can't manage it. And if you can't manage it, you can't govern it. That's the next frontier Dan is building toward. Agentic systems that stay explainable. AI that doesn't just think, but accounts for its thinking.
Building enterprise-grade AI shouldn't be complicated. It should just work the right way. At Writer.com, we don't do everything. We do one thing. We build enterprise AI that unites business and IT. Business teams? Build your own AI agents. No code required. IT teams? Manage just one platform, not a plethora of point solutions. Writer.com creates AI tools that are safe, scalable, and smarter every time you use them. That's why Accenture, Qualcomm, Vanguard, and hundreds more aren't just doing enterprise AI the right way. They're doing it the Writer way. Book your demo at writer.com/demo.
When I asked Dan what he'd tell his younger self, the boy debating word roots at dinner, the Harvard student choosing curiosity over comfort, he said this.
When you're on like an exponential curve, it looks like things are happening really, really slowly, sometimes for a really long time until you hit the knee of the curve. The problem is you don't know when that knee will occur.
For Dan, that knee came around 2018. Embedding from language modeling, Elmo came out.
Suddenly we were doing so much better on so many problems. And I was like, well, we're not going to see that kind of improvement anytime soon, but it was a huge improvement. And a year later, BERT came out. And I and all of my colleagues were like, oh my gosh, like we see another breakthrough. It's been a year, and it was just kept snowballing. So if I could have known that that was going to happen, that's incredibly energizing.
Yes, Elmo and BERT, like the Muppets. The field that runs on precision math and billion parameter models decided to name its breakthroughs after fuzzy children's TV characters. But there is a kind of poetry in that, because those models did what AI had struggled to do for decades, make language feel human. They didn't just predict text, they captured nuance, rhythm, context, the music of meaning. And after that, everything accelerated. Within a few years, ChatGPT made the world notice what Dan had been living for decades. Language is computable, and intelligence is emergent. But the next leap, he says, won't be in consumer chatbots. It'll be in enterprise systems that think with the precision of an engineer and explain themselves like a teacher. So, what does Dan Bikel's journey mean for your next strategy meeting? The talent insight. Don't hire for novelty, hire for navigation. The people who've seen AI fail at scale know how to make it work inside complexity. The strategy insight. While others chase AGI, pursue AMI, absolutely manageable intelligence. AI your compliance officer can audit, your CFO can forecast, and your CEO can defend in the boardroom. The investment insight. The boring systems Dan built decades ago still create value today. That's your cue. Invest in the scaffolding of scale, the workflows, guardrails, and integrations that make AI sustainable. Here's the Monday morning question to bring to your team. Are we trying to build AI, or are we ready to operationalize it? Because experiments get replaced. Systems that scale become indispensable. We are not at the knee of the consumer AI curve. We're at the start of the enterprise curve. And the winners won't be the companies with the biggest models, but the ones who make AI work across the business safely and repeatably. After BBN, IBM, Google, LinkedIn, and Meta, after building the technology behind Google Assistant and ensuring safety for Llama 2, Dan Bikel made a choice. He joined Writer, not because it was the biggest, but because it's where the real challenge is, helping enterprises move from pilots to permanence. In the enterprise, the smallest mislabeled word can become $1 million mistake. And Dan Bikel has spent his life teaching machines the difference between May the person and May the month. Because in business, those details aren't details, they're everything. I'm Alora Weaver. This is Humans of AI.